Etsy sellers, don't go anywhere for the next few minutes. Please listen to what I've got to say. This video is going to illuminate some reality around selling on Etsy and one critical fact that nobody talks about that massively influences whether you succeed or fail on Etsy. Everyone makes it out to be so easy to sell on Etsy, but the reality is this is tough. And this is the fact you need to know that no one talks about. I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to give you loads of golden nuggets of information here to help you succeed on Etsy. This is it. This is the bit that you're not being told. For every successful product, okay, every successful product you create, 20 to 40 will fail. Okay, now let me be clear here by what I mean, right? If it's a physical product, something that you create, 20 to 40 will fail. If the product is digital, this failure rate is much higher. The range is much higher depending on the quality of the work that you do, right? If it's physical, 20 to 40, P. If it's D, digital, 20 to 80. Now, what do I mean by fail? What I mean is no sales, okay? This is black and white stuff. This is the stuff you're not being told. Because what happens is you follow all this information on YouTube and then you look at your store and go, well, why isn't it working? Everyone says this is the formula, this is how you succeed, right? I've worked with tens of thousands of Etsy stores, more than anybody, anywhere, period. And these are the failure rates that you're looking at. And when I mean fail, I mean no sales. Just think about that. You know, when I talk about getting to 100 listings and people moan and they say, oh, I can't, you know, you just got to do your best. This is why I'm telling you to do that. So if you create 100 listings, you're only going to find 5, maybe 4, 3 that sell, right? Listen to this, that sell something, right? Something. I don't mean a bestseller. I don't mean a high volume seller. I just mean a listing that sells something that means it should stay in your store. Because all the listings that don't work and don't sell, they're just dragging your store down. They're not helping you, right? And because of these numbers, this is the reality. Well, now you can see what I mean about building a bigger Etsy store. You see people on YouTube saying you don't need to build bigger stores. Well, no, of course you don't. Not if you supply an amazing product with lower competition and high demand. No, you don't. But that's super rare. Most of you won't be going into that market space. You're going into a market space where there's lots of competition. So now you can see, well, how many listings do I need if I just want 10 winning products? If I just want 10 products that sell 1 or 2 a month, right? Reasonable, nothing fanciful. 1 or 2 sales a month that would give you 10 to 20 sales a month. 10 products. You're going to need to create a much higher catalogue of products, constantly moving through these products and bringing new products in, trying new stuff, taking out stuff that doesn't work, to start finding your winners. So if you have 100 listings, you're only realistically going to find 2 to 4 products, something like that have any kind of sales to them. So now you're looking at 200, 300, 400 listings running through time. I'm not saying put 200, 300, 400 listings in your store now. Of course I'm not. You've got to have a plan. You've got to have a structure. This is throughput of listings as you move through time. As you move through time, you start to bring in new listings, right? And these will bring a certain number of sales. But you can't do that unless you've got a plan. So you know I always talk about a listing plan, right? I always talk about listing plans. I feel like I'm boring when I keep saying this to you, but this is how I make people money. It's about predictability, about structure, right? So if look at the numbers, if you say, oh, well, I can do 10 listings a month, right? 10 a month, right? That's 120 in a year. And that gives you probably somewhere between 2 and 5 successful listings. Do you see? These aren't even high sellers. 10 listings a month. If you manage to do what I ask you to do, which is what I always talk about, if you manage to do 1 a day, right? So 30 a month, right? Now you're looking at 360 or thereabouts in a year, right? Which now gives you somewhere between sort of 6 and 15 successful listings that are just making some sales, 1 or 2 sales a month, right? But you want more than that. This is just the reality, the base reality of selling on Etsy, and over looking at thousands of stores, what this all looks like. Yes, depending on what you sell, yours might be higher, you might be lower. Digital's a nightmare. When I work with digital sellers, when people come to me and say, what's up with my digital store? I look at it and straight away the designs aren't good enough. Everyone's at the design standard that you're doing, or POD. POD's a nightmare. It's like digital. So difficult. And the designs aren't good enough. The thinking isn't there. Where is my gap? What am I doing differently than thousands and tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of other sellers? What am I doing differently? Because if you're not doing anything different, you're not going to sell. So do you see the throughput of the listings? Let's just put a sort of line here, right? And once you get this number up, so throughput of listings, right? When I say list 1 a day, I always talk about 1 a day, right? This is just a good, solid minimum that will work for most people. I tell you all this because it's safe. This is safe. It doesn't cause problems. When other people on YouTube say list 5 a day, 10 a day, 20 a day, it's garbage. That's completely unsafe. I've got to look after you guys. I want to take care of everyone, make sure you're all right. This is safe. But when you move and grow and start to sell, you don't stay at 1 listing a day, right? You move on. Once you're making many sales per day, you can list faster, you can do more. You don't stay at this. This is just as you build and grow, so that you're protecting yourself. You're protecting your conversion rate. Remember what I've told you so many times. You do 1 a day, you end up with 30 listings in a month. If you do 3 a day, that's 90 in a month. That's bonkers, right? Are you going to make enough sales to support those 90 listings? Of course you're not. You've got to go slow, take it easy, right? But when you're making many sales a day, right? So when you are doing, let's say you're doing 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 sales a day, your store's working. If you start to list more, then you're going to end up with a lot more at the end of the year. And that means you're going to find more winning products over here, right? So if you're doing 3 listings a day, 90 a month, my maths is really poor. Let me just work this out. So 10 months is 900, 11 months is 990, 12 months is 1,080, something like that. I think that's about right. Yeah? So now you're doing about 12 to 45 products, something like that, are making sales. And I'm talking about averages. I'm not talking about specific situations individual to you. I'm just showing you what the reality of success and failure looks like, and how you've got to have a throughput of listings, because for every one you create, 20 to 40 fail if it's a physical product, and 20 to 80 fail if it's digital. So do you see why this is the method behind the madness? When I always talk about list, and everyone moans at me saying, no, you don't have to do it. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You've got to have a throughput of listings to find your winners. Because I promise you, if you go and look at stores that have 10 listings, 20 listings, 30, 40, go and find them. And I know they're out there. People say, Nick, what about this store? Look, it's got 10,000 sales and only 20 listings or something, right? There's always an answer. Why? The two biggest answers. One, it's a COVID store. It was built in 2020 or 2021, and they got massive visibility from there, right? And or reason two, massive advertising and social media. That's the other main reason why you see these numbers. There's always a reason why these small stores make lots of sales, and they are in the minority, the massive minority compared to most stores that do really well and make decent sales. So this 20 to 40 failing products for everyone that succeeds if it's physical, 20 to 80 failing if it's digital. Now you know. Now you can start thinking along the right lines in how you're planning your store and what you're going to do to make more sales. You do have to think bigger. That's how this game is, right? Tell me if this makes sense in the comments. I'd love to know if this makes sense. And as always, if you want to work with me, don't wait, don't guess. The Book In Now button's coming up on your screen that takes you to a one-to-one booking form to book a one-to-one call with me on Zoom so I can help you build a better Etsy business in consultations and mentoring. And I'm going live this Wednesday, February the 4th, 10 a.m. Cyprus time. See you soon.